All right, question of the week, MBLEx review number 38. Our question is, which of the following are the classification of joints that articulate the bodies of the vertebrae? Is it going to be A, Synarthrotic joints, B, Amphiarthrotic joints, C, Diarthrotic joints, or D, Synovial joints? One more time. Which of the following are the classification of joints that articulate the bodies of the vertebrae? Is it going to be Synarthrotic joints, Amphiarthrotic joints, Diarthrotic joints, or synovial joints? So I'll give you a few moments to work on this one, and then we'll go ahead and head over to the explanation. All right, so in the community tab, I asked you which of the following are the classification of joints that articulate the bodies of the vertebrae. And we had a great turnout here. We had 44 votes. 14% of you said it was going to be synarthrotic joints. 39% of you said it was going to be amphiarthrotic joints. 7% of you said it was going to be diarthrotic joints. And then 41% of you said it was going to be synovial joints. And then thank you to the 8 people who liked this post. So a majority of you went with synovial joints, and it was kind of in between synovial joints and amphiarthrotic joints as well. So let's go ahead and see which one of these is the correct answer. Now, in order to get this answer, we need to make sure that we understand the classifications of joints. So let's take a look at this. The very first one we have are synarthrotic joints, and we should understand that these are going to be the joints without movement. So an example of this is going to be our skull. And so these joints that articulate the skull bones are synarthrotic joints. They are without movement, which makes sense because these joints are protecting our brain. We don't want those joints moving around. Now, the way that I remember synarthrotic is the word sin, and this Spanish meaning of sin is without. Now, one of my students also mentioned that they remember this word by the word sin, and they think of forbidden sin. So they think of forbidden movement. And so if that helps you remember that synarthrotic joints are without movement or it's forbidden movement, use it. So just remember, synarthrotic joints are immovable joints. These joints are not moving. The next one we have is amphiarthrotic joints, which are going to be limited movement. And so the way that I remember this is the AM at the beginning of this word. And AM to me, I think of limited movement in the morning. And so when you get up often in your older age, it takes you a little bit of time to get up out of bed and to get your joints warmed up and moving and going in the right direction. So that's how I remember amphiarthrotic joints are limited movement. And so an example of this is going to be our pubic symphysis, which is going to be this joint right here, which is going to have limited movement. And this joint right here is a fibrocartilaginous joint, which is going to be an amphiarthrotic joint. So just remember AM, limited movement. The next classification is going to be diarthrotic joints, and these are going to be our freely movable joints. And so an example of this is our hip joint, which is known as the acetabulofemoral joint, which is a ball and socket joint, which is going to allow the greatest range of movement. And so the way that I remember that diarthrotic joints are freely movable is I think of when we die, we are free. Now, I also had a student comment that they think of the word diarrhea, which means freely flowing. And so that's how they remember that diarthrotic joints are freely movable. So if that helps you remember that diarthrotic joints are freely movable, use it. Now, diarthrotic joints are going to be synovial joints. And we have 6 types of synovial joints. These are going to be our ball and socket, pivot, hinge, saddle, gliding, and ellipsoidal/condyloid joints. And so diarthrotic joints are going to be synovial joints as well. Now, this question wants us to find the classification of joints that articulate the bodies of the vertebrae. So let's take a look at a vertebrae. Here we have a vertebrae. And if you look right here, this is the body of the vertebrae. So this entire area is the body of the vertebrae. So now let's take a look at the anterior and posterior view of the vertebral column. And so here we can see the bodies of the vertebrae. And this question wants us to find the classification of joints that articulate the bodies of the vertebrae. Now, it's important that we do not get this joint confused with the posterior view of the vertebral column, which are these joints that are gliding joints. And these joints right here are known as our zygapophyseal joints. Now, this question wants us to know what is this classification of joint. And so these are intervertebral discs that makes the intervertebral joints that is a fibrocartilaginous joint, also known as an amphiarthrotic joint. This joint has limited movement. And so the correct answer here is amphiarthrotic amphiarthrotic joints. 39% of you got this answer correct. Now, if you did not get this answer correct, I would encourage you to check out the video that is already on my YouTube channel that covers Synarthrosis, Amphiarthrosis, and Diarthrosis classifications of joints. It's very important that you understand these before you go take the MBLEx. And I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out this video if you haven't already. All right, y'all have a wonderful week ahead, and I will see you in the next question of the week. Y'all take care.